I mean, we are at war. If you look at, we have border closings, travel restrictions, companies were shut down on a political order. People were locked up at home on a political order. They have curfews. I mean, this is stuff we only know from war times. And so to me, I mean, this is, the government, every government is at war with its own people.
Hey friends, Sean from SGT Report here. Thank you so very much for tuning in. That was Claudio Grass, and we have a very interesting conversation today. I think you're going to enjoy it. But first, just a quick word about this interview's sponsor. Guys, I've recently started taking ageless multi-collagen because I found out that after the age of 20, collagen production in our bodies decreases 10% every decade. So I add a scoop of ageless multi-collagen every morning to my coffee, and it really tastes great. The advantage is younger looking skin, more vibrance, and more energy. And I've seen a big difference when I look in the mirror. Ageless multi-collagen works by providing powerful nutritional support that promotes skin, hair, nails, joints, bone, teeth, and gut health. Get Ageless multi-collagen for 51% off plus free shipping by going to healthwithsgt.com or by clicking the link which I'll provide below this interview. And welcome back, friends. Thank you so very much for tuning in. I've got a very special broadcast here for you. Back on the line, our good friend Claudio Grass. His website is claudiograss.ch. He hails from Switzerland, and he's a great guy. How are you, Claudio?
I'm doing fine, Sean, as always. How are you?
I'm fine. Thanks for coming back on. The precious metals aren't what concern me today, Claudio. What concerns me today is tyrants like demonic Democrat de Blasio in New York City shutting down schools and restaurants again now today in the name of the coronavirus. All things dystopian, all things fear-based are all things Democrat. Claudio, what's life like for you in Switzerland?
I mean, when I monitor the situation on a global basis, I mean, I have friends all over the world, some in the Middle East, some in Asia, some in the United States, some in Europe, Spain, the Balears, Germany, UK. I need to say that, so far the lockdown in Switzerland has been a completely different story. I mean, whatever our government basically did has never been as harsh as what we see in other countries. So we never had police checkpoints. We never had an ordered lockdown. I mean, people were suggested to stay at home. And even now, I mean, everything is like in the good old days. I mean, of course, you see in certain, whatever is related to the government, of course, they try to push the agenda that the people have to wear the muzzle. But they can do it, with government servants, of course, and they can also do it in the public transportation system.
Did you call it the muzzle, Claudio?
The muzzle. Absolutely. The muzzle.
I love it.
I mean, it's nothing more than a muzzle. Because it's useless.
That's the first time I've heard that, Claudio. You're absolutely right. It's a frickin' muzzle. And people like Bill de Blasio in New York City, look, I don't think that man has any idea how angry people are getting. I think he's completely underestimating the anger of the citizens of New York City who are now being told again, you have to shut down your restaurant in the name of Rona, in the name of your safety. We're going to put you out of business because I'm a tyrant and you have to do what I say. This isn't America, man. The good news about America, though, is this. We have 50 states, okay? So many of those states have demonic Democrat governors, and many of the cities have demonic Democrat mayors, but many of the others don't. And we can see the dichotomy. We can see the difference between what's happening in Florida and what's happening in New York City, between what's happening in South Dakota and what's happening in California, for instance. And people are waking up. Hey, man, I don't mean to interrupt, but you sent me a video, and I want to share it before I forget. Guys, check this out. You think people aren't waking up? Claudio sent me this video. This is walkaway supporters in Washington, D.C. Check it out.
Walk away! 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 Walk away!
I'll just bring the volume down. We can let that play. Claudio, people are waking up in droves, and I asked the question on Twitter, what will it take for people in New York City, citizens, to march on the mayor's office and arrest him for his crimes. A citizen's arrest. I think it's about time, personally.
Well, I mean, that's at the end of the day, that's part of the deal. It's part of the agenda. It's part of the script that we are witnessing when it comes to Corona. I mean, it's a life exercise at the end of the day. I mean, I'm more than ever convinced that it's really like this. And that's not just because when they shut down the borders on the 13th of March, and on a global scale, you heard about this killer virus, Corona, based on a few thousand people dying in somewhere in China. I mean, I thought, something is terribly wrong and it has nothing to do. So let's look into this pandemic. 6, 7, 8 months. I mean, it's still not. We have less people dying in Switzerland than in previous years. We have to support because they are going bankrupt because no one is there. So I mean, they were talking about we have to shut down because we cannot overbust our healthcare system. I mean, in many countries that has not been an issue at all, except with some developing countries. Or countries. Let's say Italy. I mean, Italy had every year, when they had the flu pandemic, the normal flu, they had already problems. So I mean, to me, it was always complete social engineering. Basic. And then I saw this video of the World Economic Forum, which is promoting the Great Reset. And I saw that, in April or May. I mean, everything is there, even the central planners are telling us that Corona is not about a deadly flu. Corona is basically all about the new normal, going into a transhumanism, technocratic, led by intellectual idiots, expert society, completely centrally planned and complete surveillance. And then, of course, use Medicare basically to poison, the people and to bring down the population. I mean, this is what Corona is all about for me. It has nothing to do that it's deadly. And so to me, I always knew in October, I mean, even I sent you when we were coordinating for that interview a few weeks ago, and you were saying, let's do it beginning of October. I was like, hey, yeah, let's do it when the next lockdowns are going to happen. And this is exactly, because we are going into a flu season. Of course, when they do tests, I mean, these whole PCR tests are absolutely phony.
Yeah,
it doesn't say anything about. I mean, if people do their own research and have at least a little bit, an open mind, and they can still think a bit for themselves, to come up with their own conclusion. I think most of the people realize that what is going on, it has nothing to do with a scary flu or scary virus. It has really to do with a new transformation, destroying the old system, and basically, go into a new system, CO2 emission-free, green, centrally planned, based on modern monetary theory and universal basic income. And this is, of course, the ideal. It always depends on the jurisdictions. I mean, COVID is a global crisis, but it's not equally distributed. Some countries have, fared better than others, and not all jurisdictions are equal. And I think that's visible. So Switzerland is still a special case. Our government has not. He refused to push the same lockdown measures, police checkpoints, even suing people and so on, because our government understands that the Swiss don't like that the government is interacting into their private business and private life, and also in their private businesses. So we are not used to that, and I think that's why Switzerland still is a completely different story than anywhere else you can find. I mean, that's definitely one of the points. So the Swiss people, the debate, the decentralized structures, we have everything in place, political, administrative, and organizational, that we could, if the people want, to return, basically the last 20 years have been also in Switzerland being pushed for centralization, central government. But I mean, it's still there. And we would be, easily we can basically say, listen, we abolish, centralized government, and we push all the, all the responsibility back on a lower level to the states and even to our municipalities. And I think this is also what is, what we might see in the future, because so far, I mean, we don't have a lockdown again in Switzerland. I don't expect one, because our government knows that then even, the Swiss people, which are still, nice and silent, and believe that the government has to do that because the whole fucking world is doing the same shit. I mean, all these politicians, these corrupt sociopaths, and therefore, I think we will become a special case again. And then maybe the other point is, Sean, I mean, I have been accused several times in the past that Switzerland is the hub for, the evil people, the evil organizations, and so on. And some people were also saying, yeah, because of Switzerland is the host, and there is a plan behind that the Swiss are that heavily involved. And so I was digging into that. I was trying to find some evidence for this. And so the only evidence I was able to see in the future was, all these parasites, like, the United Nations, the WHO, the Bank of International Settlement. Nowadays, we have this Gavi, Global Alliance for Vaccine and Immunization. I mean, basically, the important players of the future system, which the central planners have in mind for us, I mean, they're still sitting in Switzerland. But I think all these organizations came to Switzerland because they were looking for a weak government with people who are not too much interested in politics, which have always been neutral. We give a shit about, what in the past, I mean, we were neutral and saying, just because the Americans are saying that this nation is a bad guy, we don't have just to follow a political propaganda. We can do our own research. We can do, our own know your customer due diligence to see with whom we are dealing. So, I mean, the sociopaths are always looking also for a weak government, weak structures, and the place where they can meet and held their negotiations. And so I think, when it came to the Second World War, for example, I mean, Switzerland was the only nation trading on a gold standard as the only nation on this planet, and everyone wanted to deal in Swiss francs. And even the Allies and also the Nazi, they were interested that Switzerland has a gold-backed currency, which even also neutral nations were able to use. So, I mean, so a lot of stuff went through Switzerland. And funnily, I mean, in 1933, the Bank of International Settlement has been founded I mean, basically, they signed an agreement with our Federal Council, which gave them also superpower, saying, it's like a state within the state. They are not, you cannot put them to jail. They cannot seize assets. They're not even allowed to go into that Tower of Babel, which is in Basel, the headquarters of the bank. I mean, the BITS is the central bank of the central banks. And so, we have had the 20th century has been the century of the central banks. And I think now we are going into this technocratic, big data, healthcare, globalized system, maybe broken up in a few different regions, like 1984, George Orwell, he was talking about Oceania, Eurasia, East Asia. So, I mean, we don't know what these central planners have in mind, but at least they want to centralize even further. And I think, so that's why, Switzerland is a special case, because the people are defending their individual liberty, and the people are not as obedient as in other nations, and we are still small, and we are based on this small. On the other side, you have these sociopaths, which are also interested to find a stable environment where they can hold their strange meetings, how to enslave the world, and they have chosen Switzerland, and I think they're also gonna use that in the future. So at the end of the day, I mean, it's an observation. I don't like it. I don't believe that the Swiss people are aware what's going on. I believe our politicians, some of them, might be just stupid. Others might be part of that global centralized agenda. But at the end of the day, so I think I'm pretty happy to be in Switzerland. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, better Switzerland than New York City or Los Angeles, I can tell you that. I mean, there are some states and cities in the United States that are becoming dystopian in nature because of the Democrat rule, because of these tyrants in power, and I think they need to be booted out, overthrown, arrested for their crimes. Hey, you mentioned Gavi, and I put up that screen for the Gavi website because you know as well as I do, there will be an international push to vaccinate everybody across the globe. It can't be overstated how scary groups like this are because we know their agenda is, in my view, satanic. I just did an interview with Wilfred Wong. He's got 27 years of experience researching satanic ritual abuse. Listen to this. This is Wilfred Wong.
Okay.
So the EU itself, according to a very reliable source who used to be a Satanist leader, is dominated by Satanists.
I'll just pause it right there. I wanted to play that for you because the satanic element behind all of this is now becoming really apparent to any of us paying attention. So those that actually believe in good and evil, right, in the battle between Satan and Jesus Christ, you know, between demonic entities and angels, we're starting to recognize the satanic plan behind all of this. And Wilfred Wong is warning that what is coming, if we don't stop it, is a satanic one-world government. Now, we've been talking about this stuff for a very long time, but the battle lines have been drawn, Claudio, and we're all starting to see. People are starting to see what's going on here, which is why I thought it was great timing that you sent me that walk away video, because, again, those are people that were Democrats that have had enough of the evil and are starting to walk away in droves. So in my view, man, if we get an honest election here in November, President Trump will be president for 4 more years. But the demonic Democrats are going to try to steal it, man. They're going to try to rig and steal it. They're all in the pocket of the evil satanic bankers. Do you think I'm overstating that?
You know, I mean, the more I love history, and I always wanted to understand the world we are in. I mean, that's why I was working for the United Nations 2 years in the Middle East. I was involved in politics years ago until I realized that politics is always the problem and never the solution. And, I was looking into First World War, Second World War, Iraq War, and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, it's an evil system. I mean, look at, and now this global warming, the end goes down in 12 years. And now I think they even had something at the New York, the UN, where they basically are showing a clock, which is already down to 7 years, that the world goes down because of man-made CO2. I mean, it's all bullshit. It's all scare. It's fear and control. And at the end of the day, it's also divide and conquer. And I just had an interview, with Dave, because, of course, I mean, like you, he's also a big Trump fan, and they all believe in Q, and they believe that there is a plan behind. And I just made a point saying, I don't trust any politician. I think they're all corrupted. I don't, the evil stuff is, to me, it's, materialism. It has nothing to do with spirituality. And the materialists, they also believe somehow in a deputy of God on earth. It's all about matter. And therefore I was just saying, it's the old Hegelian dialectic: problem, reaction, solution. You create the problem, you provoke a reaction, and you come up with a solution, and then you restart again. And this is going to happen as long as we accept government, especially a centralized government. And that's why I was saying to Dave and his audience that I don't care any longer. I just exit the system. We don't have to kill the king if you just can't ignore the king. And I think what's coming is clear. I mean, even if in the States, this walk away demonstration, I mean, perfect. I mean, it's Democratic members in Washington, D.C. So basically the guys who are the closest to the belly of the beast, always voting for Democrats, but now they want to break away from the left-wing, radical, Antifa, very toxic, poisoning, impacts from that side. But the question is, will that be good enough? I mean, so I don't believe anyone will save us. I don't believe in the deputy of God on earth. And I think for me, I was saying, exit the system. Start the thinking process that what do you do if the Democrats will be elected, or even if if the vote. I mean, no one is going most likely to win. No party is going to accept the winning of the other side. So you're gonna have divide and conquer, and then it most likely is going to accelerate in terms of violence and civil riots and all that stuff. Because now also, I mean, the economy is not. I mean, they're already shutting down again. So I mean, their agenda is definitely you have to destroy an old system completely to create a new one. And I just wanted to make the point that whatever is happening, we have to think about, okay, what are the next steps? Do I want to remain in a city like New York, where basically only 10% of all the office spaces are, people are back in the office. 90% are not there, and most likely biggest parts are not coming back. The advantages of city are gone. Shall I trust, the Democrats or the Republicans, or do I want to have like-minded people around me, which basically say we secede from federal government? We secede from the centralized government. We can have our own state in Texas, for example, and then let's take the power away from the center and bring it down to the municipalities. At least that's the right direction. You have to decentralize, and you have to let the people. If you have California and they want to have a communistic environment and everything is publicly owned, and let them do it. And the guys who want to have private property and Jesus Christ and free speech and conservative rules, whatever, then let them have their own municipality or city or state. And I think, you can already see it in the United States. You see people fleeing, these democratic states, going into Republican states. But I'm not sure if that will be good enough. So I don't even trust, I don't trust politics at all. So I always had a lot of sympathy for the Trump voters, because I understood what they are up to. The blue collar workers, the hardworking guys, the political incorrect guys, the guys believing, not following that democratic bullshit agenda, which has been really, lefty, Marxist, the destruction of Western civilization, this LGBT, this identity politics, indoctrination at university level, and so on. You cannot. These people will go on. So make sure that you just can segregate from those kind of ideas, and also physically, and move together with like-minded people, because the world has changed.
Yeah.
The world has changed completely.
Yeah.
And now it's a question, okay, will you remain in a centralized system, maybe even when Trump is taking over, and do you really believe that it will change something? Or, are you willing to exit and to take the next step, to go back and take self-responsibility and protect your family and move into areas where you can avoid, which are not that heavily controlled as in the city centers? Because, in the US, when you look at your police forces, the way they are armed, the FEMA camps, all that stuff, I don't know. I don't know if that's just a coincidence, but I truly believe, people really have to give up that a politician is going to save them. So they have to take action, how to protect them. And this is thinking process, and they still have time.
Yeah.
But I don't know how long. We are at war. If you look at, we have border closings, travel restrictions. Companies were shut down on a political order. People were locked up at home on a political order. They have curfews. This is stuff we only know from war times. And so to me, this is, the government, every government is at war with its own people. And they are parasites. All the politicians are parasites. With a handful of exceptions that I know. So don't expect anything good from them. You really have to completely rethink your situation. And, the ones who control the past, they control the present. And the ones who control the present, they control the future. So I think we have to break free from all this old bullshit which have been taught at school, and that we need a government, that we need a state, that we need politicians telling us what to do, what to think, what to eat, what to drink. Come on, we are grown up. So it's time, to really secede on an individual level, but, do it with some like-minded people in communities.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And I've been making the point in a cloaked way, right? I'm not going to overtly say it, but I do wonder at what point people will get fed up enough that they march on the offices of these corrupt politicians and arrest them. Okay? I'm really getting serious about this. I think that these evil politicians who have sold out are overestimating their ability to retain power if they continue to behave in evil and tyrannical ways. So I think this all changes the minute we start seeing mobs of citizens arrest corrupt politicians. And if they could get the police on their side to do that, so much the better. But let me show you something. I think the deep state is in an absolute panic in the United States want to show you this. All right, so this is from Politico. John Ratcliffe declassified a document that shows, that really proves that John Brennan of the CIA briefed Barry Soetoro and Joe Biden about the plan that was Hillary's plan to target President Trump with the idea that the Russians helped him get elected and the Russians were meddling in the election and Trump was in on it. And Politico is saying that that was disinfo. Here's the headline. Intel chief releases Russian disinfo on Hillary Clinton that was rejected by bipartisan Senate panel. Well, why was it rejected by the bipartisan? Because it was bipartisan because Democrats are all in on this and they're in on the cover-up. Here's the good news. Let me play this clip. You're going to love this, I think, Claudio. This is Dan Bongino talking about this very same issue.
Let me tell you, I've never let you down with sources, have I, Brian?
Nope.
Right? Have I always given you the scoop? Let me tell you what's really going on here. There's now been an uncovered treasure trove of evidence in this case. There's now a paper trail. They're all dead to rights, all of them. Brennan, Comey, McCabe, Strzok, all of them. But here's what's really going on. Brennan's trying to cover his butt. That Ratcliffe memo that says on July 26th, they basically briefed Obama that this whole collusion hoax was made up, and it was made up to distract America from Hillary's email scandal. The FBI knew about that. There's now a paper trail. Everybody knows the FBI knew about it. And why does McCabe think he's going to get the coronavirus through an internet connection? He doesn't. He just doesn't want to testify because now he knows that we know and everybody else knows. And Brian, let me ask you one more thing. John Brennan, he always speaks cryptically, always. He never writes specific dates or specific times. He wrote an op-ed a few weeks ago in the Washington Post where he mentioned a very specific date where he briefed Obama on Russia. Well, what was that date in the op-ed? Go read it. It was July 28th. 2 days after we now know he really briefed Obama.
But
Brennan knows we know, and he's trying to confuse everyone right now.
Just so you know, they're saying the Ratcliffe memo that was the Ratcliffe released, they're saying it's not authenticated because it could be Russian disinformation. Just telling you.
Oh, good. No, I'm glad. Good. Keep on with that. Everybody needs to call their senators and call their congressmen and demand the underlying documents showing exactly what led to that memo. Folks, I've never asked you anything. You need to call them and tell them to have those underlying documents released stat. This case will be blown wide open. Right. There'll be no escape. It's not even a smoking gun. It's a smoking nuclear missile.
I'll pause it there. Now, more information about this topic, Claudio, is that Gina Haspel, the director of the CIA, is personally blocking the release of any more Russiagate documents that will back up the Ratcliffe memo. Okay, so the deep state, the CIA, Brennan, Comey, Obama, Biden, and Clinton are all dead to rights if the information is allowed to be released. But President Trump, who's been targeted by these people since before he was president and every day since becoming president, this is what he's up against. This is what we're up against, my friend, in the United States and frankly around the world. I mean, who was Hillary Clinton's biggest supporter? Linda Rothschild. All right? It all goes back to the criminal banksters every single time, doesn't it?
Well, you know, listen, I mean, this is like an example of, I mean, I'm born in 1971. So, you know, I have seen, let's say, you know, at least 2 conspiracies in front of my eyes during my lifetime, which is 100% proved. So the first one is, you know, Iraq War I, where this little girl had their speech at the United Nations. Afterwards, it was
incubators.
You know, yeah, the incubators, and then they were finding out that he was the daughter of the Kuwaiti ambassador in the United States.
Yep.
And the other stuff was, you know, Powell with his, you know, stuff, you know, saying this is, you know, whatever. So that's why we invade Iraq.
Right. Well, don't forget building number 7 on 9/11.
Hey, I mean, you know, I'm just saying, you know, because everyone is always talking about, yeah, but this is a conspiracy, and you know, these are crazy guys. I mean, these are just, you know, these are just people who have no educated mind because they cannot entertain an idea without accepting it. So they're politically correct. They are, you know, a lot of these intellectual idiots, they are very much related with the government. So they don't accept other opinions. They just repeat what they have learned by heart. And that's what their career is based on. And if they go against the official narrative, then they, can say goodbye to their pension and, to their job. I mean, that's what we see happening all over on this planet. Not only in the States. If you're on the wrong side, you might lose your job. You might be completely destroyed by, mass media and so on. So people, I mean, we had so many different examples in the past where we saw that, it has been a big lie, and it had no impact. I mean, think about when Snowden came out saying, okay, the government is spying on everyone. Before it was a conspiracy theory. Once it was out, okay, it was a dispute for a week or two, and then afterwards it was gone, not of interest any longer. So the people get used to a lot of stuff very fastly, and so I don't, and at the end of the day, the guys who understand it, they just will become more angry, and that leads them to this divide and conquer, and that always leads to violence at the end of the day. And that's what these guys are looking for, because as long as they have clashes between, two fractions, and the people don't understand that we don't have to question the other group, we have to question authority, we have to question the states, we have to question why the US, the people in the US have to give 90% of their income to the federal government. I mean, this is just insane. And I think, yeah, this is now really, I mean, a lot of people are saying people are waking up. I truly believe that's really the case. But the question is always, let's look at the economic development over the coming months, and the lockdowns which are still ongoing. I don't know. I think they will even go on, if Trump is becoming elected. I don't know. I mean, but on the rest, on the world, I mean, it's clear that this is the new normal. They are pushing the agenda forward, at least, to the end of 2021. But until then, we don't have a global economy any longer, And when people don't have a job, when they don't have money to eat or to buy food, and they might be locked up in their homes because the police is standing outside and they don't take the vaccine, then they also, what shall they do? Then they will be completely enslaved. The government will say, okay, we give you the money. You can, it will be a digital federal US dollar coin. You can have access to it when you download the app. And on top of that, you have to go and take the vaccine and, and accept that you will be monitored and surveyed all the time. I mean, that's a little bit the problem that I see. So I truly believe people should think about it today, as long as they still have, some savings, some capital, some independency at the end of the day. What this is all about, and if everything will be fine when Trump becomes president in the States, I don't think so. So I don't say, don't give up, but I truly believe, if you face, I mean, in Switzerland, it would be different because our government is pretty weak, and also, the military and the police people. I mean, I had conversations with both of them, and I tell you, they're not very happy with what's going on, and they truly believe that it's bullshit what the Swiss government is doing. So I'm not sure if that's also the same as in the United States, because, I mean, corruption, the whole system, the Federal Reserve, the imperialistic policy over the past 56 years, the empire. I mean, it had some impact, and not in a positive way. And then it might go back to this satanistic, connection. I mean, they are evil people. These are morally superior. They truly believe that they are the chosen people. They are, chosen whatever, and that's why they can enslave the rest of the world. And I think this morally superior, even the politicians, when they believe, hey, I'm such a cool guy, I am such a knowledgeable one that I can tell people what to do. I mean, just think about that. They are pure sociopaths. And most of the politicians I know, they don't get the job in the private environment. You cannot, they are useless. They would have to clean the streets, but now they make, I don't know,
right.
Even in Switzerland, 140,000 for doing nothing.
Well, yeah. I mean, imagine Joe Biden. Well, I mean, imagine Joe Biden in the real world having to earn money. What would he do? What's he qualified to do? He's probably about as qualified as his son Hunter Biden, right? Who is?
I mean, I hope he would not be involved in a kindergarten or related role or something. But
well, I'm telling you. Okay, let's just round out the conversation. Let's just round out the conversation with a bit of good news, at least as it pertains to the United States. I mentioned Florida earlier. So Governor Ron DeSantis has opened the state. Okay, he said, enough of this. We're never going to shut down the economy on the back of a pandemic again. Okay, we're never going to do this again. This is a bad idea. And he even signed some executive order disallowing municipalities, cities, mayors from giving people fines for not wearing masks. So he's opened everything up. He says, you don't have to wear a mask. We're done with this. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, contrast that to Bill de Blasio in New York City, again now doing the second wave shutdown. All right, so
you have, I mean,
the one
you have
thing,
to shut down the cities.
yeah, the one thing we have going for us in the United States is states' rights. You don't like what's going on. You don't like what's going on in California? Move to South Dakota. Move to Texas.
Yeah.
All right. So here's my final question though for you. I just read something about a digital euro being discussed. So since you are a gold and silver guy, you and I both know they're trying to burn down this system. Literally, destroy the world economy on the back of the Rona lie to usher out whatever system comes next. And I think you're absolutely right. They want to put people on universal basic income. They want people dependent on the teat of big government, right? And in Australia, we're even seeing leaders say, we're going to compel people to take the vaccine. And if they don't, if they choose not to, they won't be getting their government checks. Or maybe they won't have the right to even work in the private sector. So I think you're absolutely right. Here's my question. If they succeed in burning down the global economy by destroying it and then ushering in whatever comes next, which is what, a digital euro and a digital dollar and God knows what, will gold and silver in physical form have very much value? What's going to happen to those of us who hold physical silver? And what's your view of physical silver and its value at $24 an ounce in the year 2020 with $30 trillion of debt in the United States alone?
I mean, gold and silver are money. Everything else is credit. And at the same time, I mean, if they want to implement digital, I mean, the Chinese, they implemented digital renminbi, centrally controlled in April already. The US is talking about it. Now the EU is talking about it. Even the Swiss bank is talking about it. I mean, I think it's coming. But because, the big changer over the last 20 years definitely has been digitalization. But we have just seen one side of the coin, and that's the centralized side. But there is another side that's completely decentralized. So I think, gold and silver, definitely. I mean, it never made more sense to own physical gold and silver. So I think it's always important, keep it nearby you so that you have certain liquidity. And the rest, I truly believe the only jurisdictions which is left, because also the sociopaths have their fortune over here, is Switzerland. And I know, I mean, I'm even working with other friends on basically digitalizing gold so that we can offer it, because, when it's cryptocurrencies, that's the denationalization of money. And people they can choose if they want to go for fiat money, which is worthless and dominated by the state. And we know they can, in a centralized system, they can take it away. They can implement negative interest rates. There is no bank run, nothing, because everything is digitalized. And still, it's also digitalized euro, digitalized US dollar. I mean, there is nothing behind. It's just, it's just a promise by the government that it has a certain value because of taxation in the future and inflation. And so that they can steal somewhere and use it as a legal tender, which is forced on us to use. And I think people can already have the chance to go into something else, which is purely digital at the end of the day, but it's completely decentralized. And if you do it in the right way, you can have, I mean, it's, at the end of the day, it's always up to the people what they decide, what becomes the medium of exchange. So I think cryptocurrencies are a fantastic medium of exchange. And the best store of value is still physical precious metals or any other. I mean, physical precious metal, definitely the best store of value. Other base metals also make sense. So we can digitalize that stuff. But as soon as it's been digitalized, then we have to make sure that it's in a jurisdiction where the government has no access or no power to confiscate. And the only country I see also in the past, which always had a long track record and history of protecting private property, has been Switzerland. I mean, the whole attack against Switzerland by the Clintons and the Jewish Congress in the United States, that we were hiding Jewish money and so on. I mean, the biggest portion is bullshit. So just a few organizations try to make a lot of money, and at the same time also destroying the reputation of of Switzerland, that we always have been the evil guys. So I don't buy that stuff. And then also, with the banks, so that a lot of Americans had undeclared funds, that was also, of course, a big mistake that the Swiss banks gave in. But, in the banking system, if you cannot use US dollars, then you're gone anyway. So it was kind of, they could not avoid not to give in to the Americans, because otherwise, Credit Suisse, UBS, they would just have been destroyed completely. And we had one bank going against it because they saw it only in Switzerland on the Swiss law, and they also have been butchered by even our own people. But that just showed, that's the banking system. But now we are talking about physical gold, which basically is kept outside the banking system under Swiss law, based on if you do it in a compliant way, and this is your money, that's how you made it, and it's fully okay. Then you can bring it to Switzerland, and we're going to digitalize it in the future under Swiss law, and therefore we can create an alternative to the current banking system, and also the new one which is coming, which is definitely the worst choice. So, at the end of the day, we don't know exactly what the future might bring, but I think we should think about it and, carefully choose and look at different options and act. It's really take action and don't wait until the whole economy is blown away. And, as I said, the big cities, if they don't start to lock down again, they do it most likely because of the future riots. I don't know what these governments are doing. In the Philippines, if you're against COVID and you don't wear a mask, they can shoot you on the street. What are we talking about? This is democide. This is the way to democide. We are at war, and I think people should understand that, because the world has changed and the borders are not going to open up, and the world economy is not going to function again in the future. It will be disrupted. And right now you can see the official narrative between, America, the Chinese, and so on. So it's still, again, it's this Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, split it up into different regions, and only a handful of people will be able to make a fortune, and always the same crooks as in the past. During the Second World War, the First World War, you only had a handful of people, interest groups, which basically made a fortune, because that's what it's all about when it's all about war. It's just about redistribution of wealth.
Right. It's always so interesting to talk with you, Claudio. I really appreciate your time. Shout out your website for folks, will you?
Yeah, it's claudiograss.ch. And so I publish, I'm an independent thinker. I can speak my mind. That was one of the reasons why I became independent a few years ago, because I just realized free speech is important. I don't claim to know the truth, but I have an open mind. I love history. I love money, the history of money. And I'm a hardcore anarchist, Rothbardian. I love the Mises Institute, and individual liberty. And these are the principles that I'm orienting myself. And, if there's a possibility to empower the individual, I think that's the ideas that I very much uphold. And that's also what I'm writing in my blog.
All right, very good. You guys should follow Claudio over at claudiograss.ch. Claudio, thank you so much for your time today. Appreciate you dialing in from Switzerland. And we will talk again soon.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, my friend. Stay care and stay free.
Amen. All right, buddy. You too. Thank you so much. And guys, thanks so much for tuning in. A special shout out to our patrons and to our members over at sgtreport.tv, where I post exclusive weekly content. Again, I'll post one this Saturday, a weekend wrap with my friend Frank from Quite Frankly. And guys, for real news 24/7, please visit us directly at sgtreport.com, the antidote to corporate propaganda. God bless, guys. Bye-bye.
So the EU itself, according to a very reliable source who used to be a Satanist leader, is dominated by Satanists. The only satanic panic that occurs when these things happen is the Satanists panicking because they're about to be fully exposed.